I was on my way to visit my husband at the hospital when a nurse stopped me in the hallway and whispered, "Mrs. Amanda, your daughter-in-law was here last night." I walked into room 307 and saw the IV bag had been changed. The color was different. Someone wanted him never to wake up. There are moments in life where everything changes in a second, where what you thought was solid ground crumbles beneath your feet. Mine arrived in the hallway of St. Mary's Hospital at 9 at night when a nurse stopped me before I could enter room 307. "Mrs. Amanda," she whispered, looking side to side like someone afraid of being caught. "Your daughter-in-law was here last night." I froze. My heart did a flip that I can still feel as I tell you this. "Delilah? What time?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The nurse pressed her lips together. She had deep dark circles under her eyes, and her hair was in a messy ponytail. You could tell she had worked too many hours in a row, around 3 in the morning. She entered with a key that I do not know where she got. She was not on the visitor log. The air escaped my lungs. 40 years of marriage had taught me to read between the lines. 40 years of building a textile empire from scratch alongside Henry had given me the instinct to detect when something did not add up. And this did not add up at all. "Why are you telling me this?" I managed to murmur. She looked at the floor nervously. Her fingers trembled slightly when she clasped them in front of her, because she changed the IV bag and I did not receive any medical order to do so. The world stopped. I pushed the door to room 307 with shaking hands. The smell of disinfectant hit me first, that scent that gets into your clothes and never leaves. The hallway light barely illuminated the silhouette of my husband in that hospital bed that seemed to swallow him whole. Henry had been unconscious for 5 days. 5 days since a stroke took him down in the middle of the office, right in front of his employees, right in front of the documents he had been obsessively reviewing for the last few weeks. 5 days where I had slept in that uncomfortable chair next to him, begging God that he would open his eyes. 5 days clinging to the hope that the man who had been my partner, my associate, my everything, would come back to me. I walked slowly to the bed. The sound of the heart monitor marked a constant, soothing rhythm, but my eyes went straight to the IV bag hanging from the metal pole. And then I saw it. The liquid had a different tone, very subtle but different. It was not the crystal clear liquid from always. There was something slightly yellowish in it, as if someone had dissolved something in there. My knees went weak. I held onto the bed rail, feeling the cold metal run up my arms. I looked at Henry's face, so still, so pale. His gray eyebrows, which I had always found distinguished, now looked whiter against his ashen skin. "What is happening?" I whispered in the darkness of the room. But deep down, a part of me already knew. A part of me that had ignored signs for months, maybe years, finally woke up screaming. Delilah, my daughter-in-law, the wife of my son Matthew, the woman who entered our family 8 years ago with a perfect smile and words of honey, but whose eyes never quite smiled when she looked at me. What was she doing in this room at 3 in the morning? Why did she change the IV bag? I stumbled out of the room. The nurse was still there, waiting. Now I understood why. She had seen something too. She also knew that something was terribly wrong. "Are you new to the night shift?" I asked her, my voice barely a thread. "I have been here 3 weeks. That is why I know this is not normal." I leaned against the hallway wall. A doctor ran past toward another room. A gurney rolled near us. The life of the hospital continued its course while mine was falling apart. "Do you have cameras?" It was the only thing I could think to ask. She shook her head but then hesitated. "In the hallways, yes. Not in the rooms." Something, I thought. "Thank you." I looked at her badge. "Thank you, Lucy. You do not know what it means that you told me this." She nodded, but I saw fear in her eyes. Fear of the consequences of having dared to speak. At that moment, I did not know it, but that fear was more than justified. I went back into the room. This time I turned on the light. I needed to see everything, examine everything. The IV bag, the tube connecting to Henry's arm, the intravenous line perfectly placed. Everything looked normal at first glance. But I knew it was not. I sat in that chair that knew by heart every complaint of its broken springs. I took Henry's cold hand between mine and squeezed it. "What did you see, my love?" I whispered to him. "What did you discover that put you like this?" Because now I understood. Henry did not have a stroke by chance. Not at 68 years old, being in perfect shape, taking care of himself like he did. Something had brought him to that point. Something or someone. And now, someone did not want him to wake up. My phone vibrated in my purse. It was a message from Matthew. "Mom, are you still at the hospital? You should rest already. I can stay tonight." I looked at that message for a long time. My son, my firstborn, the boy I had carried in my arms, the young man I had sent to college, the man I had put in charge of part of the family business. How much did he know? How much was he involved? I did not reply to the message. Instead, I dialed a number I had saved for years and never thought I would use. "Dr. Sullivan, this is Amanda Reynolds, wife of Henry Reynolds, the patient in 307. I need you to do me a favor first thing tomorrow morning. I need you to analyze the contents of the IV bag connected to my husband, and I need no one, absolutely no one, to know we are doing this." There was silence on the other end of the line. "Mrs. Amanda, is there something I should know?" "Soon there will be, doctor. For now, I just need you to trust me." I hung up before he could ask more questions. That night, I did not sleep. I stayed sitting in that chair, holding Henry's hand, guarding that IV bag as if my life depended on it. Because maybe it was not my life hanging by a thread. It was his. And someone in my own family wanted to cut it. If this story is gripping you as much as it hurt me to live it, subscribe to the channel Elderly Stories, because what comes next is just the beginning of a nightmare I never imagined living within my own blood. But I still did not know the worst. I still did not know how long this had been happening right in front of my eyes, and how much I had ignored for the love of my son. Doctor Sullivan arrived at 6 in the morning before the shift change. He brought a black briefcase and an expression that told me he had understood the urgency without needing explanations. He extracted a sample from the IV while I stood guard at the door. My hands were sweating. Every step in the hallway made me jump. "You will have results in 2 hours, Mrs. Amanda. I will call directly to your cell phone." I nodded without words. What could I say? "Thank you for helping me discover if my family is poisoning my husband." I stayed there, standing by the window, watching the sunrise over Chicago. The city woke up unaware of my torment. Vendors were setting up their stands. The smell of fresh bread rose from the bakery on the corner. Everything was normal out there. But in my world, nothing would ever be normal again. I closed my eyes and allowed myself to remember, because I needed to understand how I had gotten here, how a family we built with so much love had turned into this. Henry and I met in 1985. I was barely 23 and worked as a seamstress in a textile factory downtown. He was the owner's son, but not one of those who spend their time at parties spending the inheritance. No. Henry arrived at 5 in the morning, before everyone. He checked every machine. He knew every employee by name. We fell in love between rolls of fabric and the noise of industrial machines. His father opposed it at first. I was not from his class, he said. But Henry defended me. He chose me. And together we proved that love can indeed move mountains. When his father died in 1990, we inherited a bankrupt factory and debts of $50,000. Everyone gave up on us, but we worked day and night. I designed, he sold, I managed, he negotiated. In 10 years, we lifted the business. In 20, we had 3 commercial locations in different cities. Today that empire is worth millions of dollars. Millions that we built with calluses on our hands and sleepless nights. We had 3 children. Matthew arrived first in 1983, before we got married. then Eleanor, and finally Ryan. All three grew up seeing our effort. All three promised to continue the legacy, but life has strange ways of twisting plans. Eleanor fell in love with a European man and left for London 12 years ago. Ryan got a job at a Canadian oil company and lives in Calgary. They call every week. They send photos of the grandkids, but they are far away. So far that sometimes I feel like I lost them. Only Matthew stayed, my firstborn, my oldest son, the one who swore never to abandon us. We put him in charge of administrative management 5 years ago. We trusted him. We gave him access to the accounts, to the suppliers, to everything. Because he was our son. Because we thought no one would take better care of the family business than our own blood. And then Delilah arrived. He met her at a textile business congress. She worked as an event assistant. She was 28 years old, 15 years younger than Matthew. She was beautiful. I could not deny that. Long black hair down to her waist, green eyes that seemed to see right through you, a smile that could light up or freeze depending on her mood. At first, I tried to welcome her. I organized a family dinner. I gave her a rosary blessed by our priest. I even offered to teach her the traditional family recipes. But she always found subtle ways to reject me. She arrived late to meetings. She forgot to tell us about important events. When I spoke, she looked at her phone. And Matthew? Matthew changed. He stopped visiting us on Sundays. He no longer asked for advice about the business. When we went to his house, Delilah always had an excuse to leave. Family dinners became tense, full of uncomfortable silences. Henry noticed. He tried to talk to Matthew several times, but our son got defensive. "I'm not a child anymore, Dad. I have my own family now." As if having a wife meant forgetting where you came from. Things got worse 2 years ago. Henry arrived one night pale, with a manila envelope in his hands. He locked himself in his study for hours. When he came out, his eyes were red. "What happened?" I asked him, scared. "We will talk later, Amanda. Right now I need to think." The next day, he went to the notary. Alone. He changed the will without telling me what he modified. When I complained, he hugged me tight. "Trust me, I am protecting what we built together. I should have insisted more. I should have forced him to explain. But I thought we would have time. I thought when he was ready, he would tell me." I never imagined time would run out on us so soon. My phone vibrated. It was Dr. Sullivan. My heart raced. My fingers trembled as I swiped the screen. "Mrs. Amanda, I need to see you. Now, in my office." He did not say more. It was not necessary. I left the room almost running. I went down the stairs because I could not wait for the elevator. I arrived at his office breathless. He closed the door. His face was a mask of professional concern, but I saw something else in his eyes. Alarm. Maybe even fear. The IV contains benzodiazepines, a considerable dose. I held onto the desk. My legs would not respond. What does that mean? It means someone is deliberately sedating your husband, keeping his nervous system depressed, preventing him from waking up. The room spun. How long has this been happening? He checked some papers. He did some calculations, based on the levels in his blood. Days. Maybe from the beginning. From the beginning. Someone had been poisoning Henry since day one, and I, his wife of 40 years, had been sitting next to him without realizing it. "There is something else," the doctor continued. "I reviewed his history. Your husband's stroke was caused by extreme stress. Something upset him deeply days before. What did you see, Henry? What did you discover that put you like this? And more importantly, who does not want you to tell it?" I left that office with a truth that burned me inside. My family was hiding secrets, secrets dark enough to kill, and I was about to open a box that perhaps I should have left closed. But there was no turning back, because when you discover that your own blood is capable of betraying you, you have to decide how far you are willing to go for the truth. I went back to room 307 with legs of jelly, but with a steel determination I did not know I had. That is the problem when you are pushed to the limit. You discover what you are really made of. And I was made of 40 years of fighting alongside a man who now could not defend himself alone. I sat in that worn chair and took out my cell phone. My hand still trembled, but no longer from fear. It was rage. A cold rage rising from my stomach and clouding my vision. I started searching Delilah Montes Reynolds, my daughter-in-law, the woman who had entered my family in that white lace dress and that smile promising respect and unity. I opened her Facebook. Usually I am not one of those mother-in-laws who spies on social media, but this was no longer normal. None of this was. I scrolled down her profile. Photos in expensive restaurants, photos at the gym, selfies with friends I had never met. And then something stopped me cold. A photo from 6 months ago. Delilah in front of the counter of a large pharmacy, one of those that sell everything. She was holding a bag and smiling at the camera. The caption said, "Preparing my natural remedies for the family. Natural health, family wellness, natural remedies." I zoomed in on the image. Behind her on the counter, I could just see a box. I could not read the full name, but I distinguished the letters CPAM. My heart did a flip. I kept scrolling. More photos. A post from a year ago where she shared an article about medicinal plants that help you sleep better. Another where she talked about the importance of alternative medicine. Since when was Delilah interested in this? I closed Facebook and Googled her name. I needed to know more. And what I found froze my blood. Delilah had studied nursing 3 years at the State University from 2012 to 2015, but she never finished the last year. She never got her degree. She never practiced. Why had no one told me this? I called Eleanor. My daughter answered on the second ring, her voice sleepy from the time difference. "Mom, are you okay? It is 4 a.m. here. Eleanor, did you know Delilah studied nursing?" Silence. Long. Too long. "Mom, why are you asking that now? Answer me." She sighed. I heard movement, probably getting out of bed so as not to wake her husband. Yes, I knew. Matthew told me when they started dating. He said she had dropped out because it was not her thing. Why does it matter? I closed my eyes. A headache was starting to hammer my temples. And it never seemed strange to you that she never mentioned it? "Mom?" Eleanor's voice became cautious. "What is really happening? Matthew called me yesterday saying you were acting paranoid at the hospital. Of course he had. Of course he was already controlling the narrative. Your father did not have a normal stroke, Eleanor. Someone is giving him something to keep him asleep. Mom, please listen to yourself. Do you think Matthew?" I do not know what to believe. I only know what I know. I hung up before hearing more. I could not handle the disbelief of my own children right now, not when every minute counted. I called the hospital and asked to speak with the director of nursing. An older woman with a firm voice attended me. "Mrs. Reynolds, how can I help you? I need to see the visitor log for room 307. All visits from the last 5 days. That is confidential. My husband is in that room. I have the right." A sigh. Computer typing. "Let me see. Your son Matthew has come every day between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. Your daughter-in-law, Delilah?" My stomach tightened. Yes, her. How many times? According to the official log, twice. On the 2nd day and the 4th day. And unofficially, uncomfortable silence on the other end. "I do not understand the question, ma'am." "Yes, you do. The hallway cameras. I want to see them. Does that require a court order or probable cause? A nurse saw her enter last night without registering. That is cause enough." More silence. Then, in a lower voice, "You would have to make a formal request, and it will take time." I did not have time. Henry did not have time. I hung up and stared at my husband. His chest rose and fell with mechanical regularity. The monitor beeped constantly. He seemed stable. But I knew the truth. Every hour that passed with that drug in his system was an hour further from waking up. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Mrs. Amanda, this is Lucy, the nurse from last night." Her voice sounded tense, scared. "Are you okay? They called me to the office this morning. They said I made mistakes on my shift, that I reported things without evidence. They suspended me." My stomach sank. Suspended? Why? Someone complained about me. Someone with influence. And I think I know who it was. Delilah. It had to be Delilah. Somehow she found out Lucy had warned me. "I'm so sorry, Lucy. This is my fault." "No," she interrupted me. "This is the fault of whoever is doing something bad. Listen, before they walked me out, I saved something. The recordings from the hallway cameras for the last 5 days. I have them on a USB drive." I stood up abruptly from the chair. "Where are you?" "Hospital cafeteria, back table. I have a red cap on." I arrived in less than 3 minutes. Lucy was there, sunk into the chair, with dark circles deeper than the night before. When she saw me, she took a small USB from her purse and slid it across the table. I do not know if it will help, but everything is there. Every entry, every exit, every night visit that should not have happened. I took the USB like it was gold. Maybe it was. Maybe it was the only proof I had. "Why are you doing this?" I asked her. "You already lost your job. You could just leave." Her eyes filled with tears. "Because my mom died 2 years ago in a hospital. The doctors said it was sudden cardiac arrest. But I know it was not like that. My sister-in-law was the only one who visited her at night. And when Mom died, we discovered she had changed her will a week before. Everything was left to my brother. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. No one believed me. Everyone said I was crazy with grief, but I know what I saw. And when I saw your daughter-in-law enter last night with that key, with that attitude, I recognized the same look, the same urgency. I took her hand on the table. It was cold. "Thank you, Lucy. You do not know what this means. Just promise me one thing, Mrs. Amanda. If you find out I am right, do not let them get away with it, because sometimes justice needs someone to fight for it." I left that cafeteria with the USB clenched in my fist. I did not know what I would find in those recordings, but something told me that after seeing them, there would be no turning back, because some truths, once discovered, change everything forever. I arrived home for the first time in 5 days. The house Henry and I bought 30 years ago, the one we remodeled together, where we raised our children, where we celebrated Christmases and birthdays. Now it felt empty, cold, as if it knew something terrible was about to be revealed within its walls. I turned on the computer with trembling hands. I inserted the USB, and when those videos started playing, I understood that my life as I knew it had ended, because there are things you cannot unsee once you have seen them, and what appeared on that screen was going to destroy my family, or save it. The first video started playing. Date October 16th, 2:47 a.m., the third-floor hallway of the hospital barely lit by emergency lights. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Just the empty hallway, the shine of the freshly mopped floor, the medication cart parked by the wall. Then she appeared. Delilah walked fast, sticking to the wall, looking both ways. She was wearing dark jeans and a hoodie. None of the perfect makeup she always wore, none of the elegance she showed off on social media. She looked like what she was, someone who did not want to be seen. She arrived at the door of room 307. She took something out of her pocket, a key. She put it in the lock with precise movements, as if she had done it before, as if she knew exactly how to open it without making noise. She entered. The door closed behind her. 4 minutes later, she came out. She walked even faster toward the elevator and disappeared. I felt nauseous. I had to pause the video and breathe deeply. My hands were sweating on the mouse. What had she done in those 4 minutes? I opened the second file. Date, October 17th, 3:15 a.m., the same scene. Delilah entering. This time she took 6 minutes inside. When she came out, she adjusted her hoodie and looked directly at the camera for a second. Her eyes shone strangely under the fluorescent light, cold, calculating. It was not the look of someone visiting a sick relative. It was the look of someone executing a plan. The third video almost killed me. Date, October 18th, 2:33 a.m. This time, she did not come alone. Matthew appeared first in the hallway. My son, my firstborn, the boy I had carried, fed, educated. He was wearing a dark jacket, baseball cap, hands stuffed in his pockets. He stopped in front of room 307 and took out his cell phone. He typed something. 30 seconds later, Delilah appeared from the other end of the hallway. They met in front of the door. They spoke. I could not hear what they were saying, but I saw the tension in their gestures. Matthew pointed toward the door. Delilah shook her head. He insisted. She finally nodded. They entered together. This time, they were inside for 8 minutes. When they came out, Matthew looked both ways down the hallway, nervous, while Delilah put something in her purse. Something small. A vial, perhaps. A syringe. They left in opposite directions, as if they did not know each other, as if they were not husband and wife, as if they had not just come out of the same room where my husband lay helpless. I stopped the video. I got up from the chair. I walked to the bathroom and threw up everything I had in my stomach, which was not much. I had barely eaten a bite in days. I looked in the mirror. A 67-year-old woman stared back at me, gray hair in a messy bun, deep dark circles, pale skin, wrinkled clothes I had been wearing since yesterday. I looked 10 years older than a week ago, but in my eyes there was something new, something hard, something dangerous. I went back to the computer. I needed to see it all, every second, every entry, every exit. There were more videos. In the one from October 19th, Delilah spent 20 minutes inside the room. In the one from the 20th, she entered again at 4 a.m., when the hospital is most asleep, when fewer nurses roam the halls. Every night since Henry's stroke. And on 3 of those nights, Matthew stood guard outside. Tears started falling without me being able to control them. They were not tears of sadness. They were pure rage, of betrayal, of a pain so deep it had no name. My son. My own son. The doorbell rang. I wiped my face violently and went to open it, ready to face whatever it was. It was Matthew. He was there, standing on the threshold with that smile I had known since he was born. The same smile he used as a child when he did something mischievous. Only now I knew that behind that smile lived a monster. "Mom, are you okay? You have not answered my messages." I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to push him. I wanted to ask him how he could be doing this. But I held back, because something in me knew that if I showed my cards now, I would lose the game. "I am tired, Matthew. I just came to shower and change." He tried to enter. I took a step, blocking the entrance. "You better rest well, Mom. I will stay with Dad today." Of course he wanted to stay. Of course he wanted to keep controlling the situation. "No, I will be back in an hour. Mom, you have not slept in days. Let me help you." I said no. My voice sounded harder than I intended. I saw a flash in his eyes. Surprise. Maybe suspicion. "Okay," he said, finally raising his hands. "As you wish, but if you need anything." "What I need is for my husband to wake up. Can you give me that, Matthew?" Something changed in his expression. Something dark crossed his face for a fraction of a second before he put the mask back on. "We all want that, Mom." "We are all worried." He left. I watched him get into his new truck, a brand new model. How much had it cost? $60,000? $80,000? Where had he gotten the money to buy it? I locked the door, 2 locks, the security chain, something I never did during the day. I went back to the computer. I copied all the videos to my phone, to a new USB drive, to the cloud. I was not going to lose this evidence. Then I called the family lawyer, Attorney Vance, a man of 60 who had drafted all our contracts for 20 years. "Amanda, how is Henry? I need to see you. Today. It is urgent. Did something happen with the business? Something much worse. Can you in 2 hours? I heard him hesitate. Then, I will be in my office. I arrived on time. Attorney Vance received me in his office full of law books and diplomas on the walls. He offered me coffee. I refused. I could not take anything. My stomach still burned. I showed him the videos. His face, usually serene and professional, broke down with every second that passed. When the last one ended, he took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. My God, Amanda, this is attempted murder. The words floated in the air between us. Attempted murder. My son, my daughter-in-law, trying to kill my husband. What can I do? You need to go to the police. Now. With these videos and the analysis of the IV you mentioned. And if it is not enough. And if they say the videos prove nothing because you do not see what she does inside the room? He sighed. He leaned back in his leather chair. Then you need more. You need to catch them in the act, with witnesses, with irrefutable evidence. How? He looked at me with that expression that tells you that you are about to hear something you do not want to hear. You have to let them try again and be ready to document it all. The rest of the day I spent planning. I called Dr. Sullivan. I explained everything. At first he refused flatly. Too dangerous, too risky. But when I showed him the videos, his face hardened. Fine, I will do it. But on one condition. The police have to be involved from now. We need legal protection. I called the police. Not the local station. A detective from the Financial Crimes Unit who had investigated a fraud case in our company years ago. Detective Roberts, a righteous man, incorruptible. Detective Roberts arrived at the hospital that night, tall with a thick mustache, eyes that missed nothing. I showed him everything. The videos, the IV analysis, the bank records I had started reviewing that showed strange transfers from the business accounts. He scratched his mustache while he thought, this is enough for an investigation, but for arrests, I need to see them do it. With my own eyes. That is what we are going to give you. That night, I stayed at the hospital in room 307 with the lights off, sitting in the chair next to Henry, holding his cold hand. Detective Roberts was hidden in the bathroom, Dr. Sullivan in his office, ready to come in seconds. And I waited. I waited for my own family to come to try to kill the man who had been my entire life. The clock marked 2:15 a.m. when I heard the key in the lock, because sometimes to catch a monster, you have to let it get close enough to look it in the eyes. The door opened slowly, too slowly, as if whoever entered knew exactly how to keep the hinges from creaking. I sank into the chair, pretending to be asleep. My heart beat so loud I thought it would give me away. I heard soft steps. 2 people. I recognized Delilah's perfume before seeing her, that sweet vanilla scent she always wore, the one that once seemed pleasant to me and now gave me nausea. Is she asleep? Whispered Matthew. It looks like it, but hurry. I opened my eyes just a slit, enough to see. Delilah approached the IV. She took a small vial from her purse. She uncapped it with precise movements. Professional. The movements of someone who knows exactly what they are doing. Are you sure about the dose? Asked Matthew, nervous, looking toward the door. Calm down. With this, he will not wake up until it is too late. She introduced the needle into the injection port of the IV. I could not take it anymore. I stood up abruptly. The chair fell backward with a crash that resonated in the room. Stop! Delilah jumped. The vial almost fell from her hands. Matthew went white as paper. Literally, I saw the blood leave his face. Mom, he stammered. Me? Us? What are you doing? My voice came out broken, loaded with all the pain I had been holding for days. What are you doing to your father? Delilah recovered her composure faster than Matthew. She was always the colder of the two. She hid the vial quickly in her purse and looked at me with those green eyes that now looked like ice. Mrs. Amanda, I think you are confused. We just came to see how he was doing. "Liar!" I screamed. I no longer cared if I woke up the whole floor. "I saw you. I saw what you were going to do." Matthew approached with his hands raised as if I were a wild animal that had to be calmed. "Mom, please, you are upset. You have not slept well in days. Do not talk to me as if I were crazy." Tears started to fall. I could not stop them. "You are my son, Matthew. How can you do this to your own father?" Something changed in his expression. The mask of concern fell, and what remained underneath terrified me more than everything before. "Because he is taking everything from us," he said with a flat voice, without emotion. "He changed the will, Mom. He left us out. After everything we have worked for." Worked? The laugh that came out of me sounded hysterical. Worked stealing from the company? Worked getting into debt up to your neck? Worked killing your father? Delilah took a step forward. Her eyes shone dangerously. "Your husband is a stubborn old man who will not let go of control. He already lived his life. He already had his chance. Now it is our turn." "Our turn?" I repeated, incredulous. "Our turn for what? To inherit over his corpse?" "If he wakes up," intervened Matthew, and his voice sounded desperate now, "he's going to change everything again. He is going to report me. He is going to take away my access to the accounts. He is going to leave us with nothing. Because you deserve it. Because you stole." Matthew looked at me with something I never thought to see in my son's eyes. Contempt. "You were always just like him. Controlling, clinging to money as if it were yours. You never wanted to give us our share. We gave you everything," I whispered, and every word hurt like a knife. "We gave you education, opportunities, love. We gave you the business. And this is how you pay us?" "You gave us crumbs," spat Delilah. "A miserable salary while you keep millions, while you live in your big house, and we barely... You live in a house worth $500,000 that we gave you the down payment for." The scream came from the deepest part of my being, from 40 years of sacrifice, from early mornings working, from calloused hands and aching backs, from building something from nothing so that my children would have a future. And this was my future, seeing my son willing to kill for money. Delilah took out her cell phone. "I will call security. We will say she is having a psychotic episode, that she is attacking me." "Go ahead," I said, wiping my tears with rage. "Call, because I also have something to show them." I took out my cell phone. I opened the folder of videos. "I have recordings of every night you entered here. I have the analysis of the IV showing drugs. I have proof of everything." I saw panic cross their faces. Finally, they felt fear. "You are lying," said Delilah, but her voice trembled. "Do you want to bet your freedom on that?" Matthew snatched the phone from my hands. He did it with so much force he scraped my palm. "Give me that! Matthew, let me go!" We struggled. My own son, the baby I had nursed, the child I had cured of fevers and nightmares, now was hurting me to protect his secret. The door opened abruptly. Detective Roberts entered with 2 uniformed officers. Behind came Dr. Sullivan. "Freeze, everyone. Matthew let me go as if my skin burned." Delilah tried to run toward the exit. An officer blocked her path. "Delilah Reynolds, Matthew Reynolds, you are under arrest for attempted murder and tampering with medication." "This is a misunderstanding," screamed Delilah. "She is sick. She is making things up." Detective Roberts held up a small recorder that had been in his pocket the whole time. The copies of the videos were already registered with the prosecutor's office and the hospital, so nothing could disappear. We have everything recorded, every word, including the part where she admits to poisoning the patient. I watched as they put the handcuffs on them. I watched as they read them their rights. I watched how my son looked at me with pure hate as they took him out of the room. "This is your fault," he spat at me. "Yours, you always ruin everything." And those were the last words my son directed at me that night. I collapsed against the wall. My legs would not support me anymore. Dr. Sullivan helped me sit before I fell to the floor. "Are you okay, Mrs. Amanda?" I was not okay. Nothing was okay. I had just sent my own son to jail. I had just discovered that the child I had raised was capable of killing. How is a mother supposed to recover from that? I approached Henry. I took his hand. It was still cold. He was still unconscious, but now, at least, he was safe. "It is over, my love," I whispered to him. "You are safe now." But I was not. A part of me had died that night in room 307. The part that believed family was sacred, that blood was unbreakable. Because discovering that your son prefers to see you destroyed rather than lose money, that is a type of death that no funeral can close. The sun rose over the city as if nothing had happened, as if my world had not fallen apart completely in the last few hours. I stayed at the hospital. I did not have the strength to go home. I did not want to be in that empty space where every photo on the wall would remind me of what I had lost. At 8 in the morning, the calls started. First, it was Eleanor. Her voice sounded upset, confused, furious. "Mom, what did you do? Matthew called me from the station. He says they arrested him, that you accused him of trying to kill Dad. Tell me it is not true." Not. I stayed silent. What could I say? How to explain to my daughter that her brother was capable of that? "Mom, talk to me. What is happening?" "It is true, Eleanor. Everything is true." "No, no, no, no. Matthew would never—" Her voice broke. "You are confused. The stress, the lack of sleep. I have videos. I have evidence. I have their own words admitting what they were doing." Long silence, ragged breathing on the other end. "I cannot believe you are doing this. He is your son, Mom. Your son. How can you do this to him?" Every word was a dagger. How can I? How can I? "Eleanor, they were killing your father. Did you want me to stay silent? You should have found another solution, talk to them, something. But not destroy the family like this. I did not destroy anything. Matthew did it when he decided to poison his father. I do not want to talk to you right now. I can't." And she hung up. I stood staring at the phone. My daughter. My only daughter. She had just hung up on me. 15 minutes later, Ryan called. My youngest son, always the calmest, the mediator, the one who tried to keep the peace. But that morning, his voice had nothing of peace. "Mom, I need you to explain what the hell is happening. Eleanor is crying hysterically. Matthew is detained. Did you lose your mind? Ryan, please, I need you to listen to me." "No, Mom, you listen to me. I know you are going through a lot with Dad. I know you are tired. But accusing Matthew of attempted murder. Do you realize what that means? It means your brother and your sister-in-law were giving drugs to your father so he would not wake up. And when I discovered them, they tried to make me look crazy. Delilah is a nurse, Mom. Maybe she just wanted to help. Delilah never finished her degree, and what she was giving him was not help. It was poison. Do you have real proof or just suspicions? Real proof? After everything I had gathered, I have videos, lab analysis, testimonies. Then you are wrong about something. There has to be an explanation. Matthew is not a killer. I did not want to believe it either, Ryan. But the facts are that you sent your son to jail. And that, Mom, is unforgivable. He also hung up. I stayed there sitting, holding the phone as if it weighed 100 pounds. My 3 children, the 3 I had birthed, raised, loved with every fiber of my being. 2 of them had just turned their backs on me. The 3rd was in a cell, hating me. The door to the room opened. A social worker entered. A young woman, 30-something, with a tablet in her hands and a professional expression. "Mrs. Reynolds, I need to ask you some questions about the minors." It took me a second to process. The minors? The children of Matthew and Delilah Reynolds, Mason, 7, and Sophie, 5. With both parents detained, we need to know who will take charge. My grandkids. My God, my grandkids. I will take charge. The worker checked something on her tablet. There is a request from the Montes family. Delilah's parents are asking for temporary custody. What? No, they barely know them. We are... Mrs. Reynolds, she interrupted with a soft but firm voice. You are the one who pressed charges against the children's parents. The judge could consider there is a conflict of interest. Those children are my blood. I have cared for them since they were born. I understand. But you will have to go through the legal process. For now, the children will remain under the temporary custody of the maternal grandparents. I felt the floor open under my feet. Are you telling me I cannot even see them? You can request supervised visits, but that will also depend on the judge. She left, leaving me with a paper full of legal terms I could barely read because tears clouded everything. They took my grandkids away. Mason, who called me Nana and asked me to read him stories before sleeping. Sophie, who hugged my neck so tight I could barely breathe. The phone vibrated again. This time it was a number I did not recognize. Mrs. Reynolds? This is Christina Bell from Channel 8 News. We found out about your son's arrest. Could you give us a statement? I hung up. 2 minutes later, another number. Another journalist, then another. The news was out. Textile heir, arrested for attempted murder against his father. The headlines must be everywhere. I turned off the phone. I approached Henry. He was still sleeping. He still knew nothing of this. And a selfish part of me was grateful he did not have to see what had happened. Did I do good? I asked him in a low voice. Did I do the right thing? Silence. Just the beep of the monitor. I lost our children, our grandkids. I lost everything to save you, and I do not even know if you hear me. I rested my forehead against his hand. It was warmer than yesterday. It was something. Something small, but something. The door opened again. This time it was Attorney Vance. Amanda. I came as soon as I heard. I sat up, wiping my face quickly. Is it on the news already? Everywhere. And there is something else you need to know. He sat in the other chair. Delilah's parents hired one of the best criminal defense lawyers in the state. They are going to fight this with everything. Let them fight. I have proof. You have it. But they also have money for a good defense, and they are going to use everything against you. They are going to paint you as a resentful mother-in-law, as an older, confused woman who misinterpreted acts of love. That is a lie. I know. But they are going to create reasonable doubt, and I need you to be prepared for what is coming. What was coming? A trial, testimonies, Matthew in front of me in a court, my other children probably testifying in his favor. I do not know if I can do this, I admitted. It was the first time I said it out loud. The lawyer put a hand on my shoulder. You can, and you are going to. Because if you do not, those people will go free, and they will try again. He was right. Of course he was right. But that afternoon, sitting alone in that hospital room with my husband unconscious and my family destroyed, I felt more alone than ever in my life. Because sometimes doing the right thing means staying completely alone, and it hurts more than you ever imagined anything could hurt. 3 days passed. 3 days in which I did not receive a single call from my children. 3 days watching Henry day and night, terrified that someone else would come to finish what Matthew and Delilah started. Dr. Sullivan had ordered all the IVs changed, Henry's system cleaned, but the damage was done. The benzodiazepines had been accumulating in his body for days. He needs time, the doctor explained to me. His brain is fighting to wake up, but the medication keeps him suppressed. It could take days, maybe weeks that I would spend alone. On the 4th night, when the shift changed and the hospital was quieter, my phone vibrated. Unknown number. I was going to ignore it, but something made me answer. Mrs. Amanda. It was a woman's voice, nervous, almost whispering. Who is speaking? It is Lucy, the nurse. I need to see you. I have something you need to know. My heart did a flip. Where are you? Hospital cafeteria, in 20 minutes. And ma'am, come alone. She hung up before I could ask more. I looked at Henry. I hated leaving him alone even for 5 minutes. But something in Lucy's voice told me this was important. I asked a nurse on the shift to watch the room. I gave her my number. If anyone who is not a doctor tries to enter, call me immediately. I went down the stairs. The cafeteria was almost empty at that hour. Only 2 doctors at a back table and a cleaning lady mopping. Lucy was in the farthest corner. She wore a cap, dark glasses even though we were inside, and a jacket that covered her to her neck. She looked like someone fleeing. I sat in front of her. She had her hands wrapped around a coffee cup that was clearly already cold. "Thank you for coming," she said without looking me in the eyes. "What happened, Lucy? Are you okay?" Finally, she looked up. She had a bruise on her cheek, yellowish, several days old. "Who did that to you?" "It does not matter. What matters is this." She took a manila envelope from her backpack and slid it across the table. After they fired me, I kept investigating because I knew something did not add up. I opened the envelope. There were documents, printouts, medical records. What is this? Pharmacy records from the last 14 months. Every purchase of controlled medications made with prescriptions in the name of doctors from this hospital. I started reviewing. There were dozens of pages, hundreds of transactions. I do not understand. Look at page 17, the prescriptions signed by Dr. Goodman. I looked. There it was, a long list of purchases. Clonazepam, diazepam, lorazepam, all benzodiazepines, all in large quantities. And Dr. Goodman died 2 years ago. Someone was using his signature to buy drugs illegally. My blood froze. Who? Lucy took out another sheet, a copy of a pharmacy badge. The name on the ID said Delilah Montes. Your daughter-in-law worked 6 months in the hospital pharmacy. 3 years ago. No one remembered her name until I started asking. But she had access to the doctor's stamps, to the prescriptions, to everything. My hands trembled holding that paper. Does this mean she has been planning this for years? Or worse, that she already did it before? I leaned back in the chair. My head was spinning. Did it before? To whom? Lucy took a deep breath, like preparing to say something terrible. I investigated your daughter-in-law's family. Her maternal father-in-law died 4 years ago, supposedly of cardiac arrest during the night. In a hospital, Delilah was his only night visitor. I felt nauseous. And the inheritance. All went to Delilah's mother, who curiously transferred $50,000 to her daughter 2 months later. My God, this was worse than I had imagined. It was not the first time. Delilah had killed before and had gotten away with it. Why are you telling me all this? You could get in trouble. Lucy's eyes filled with tears. Because I need someone to believe it. When my mom died, I tried to say it. I tried to investigate, but no one listened to me. They called me crazy. They threatened me. She touched the bruise on her cheek. My brother did this. He told me if I kept talking, it would be worse. I took her hand on the table. I'm so sorry, Lucy. No one should go through that. But you believed me, and you have the power to do something. Please do not let them get away with it. Not again. I put the documents in my purse. Can I keep this? I made copies. Those are yours. I also included the contacts of 2 pharmacy employees who remember Delilah. They are willing to testify if they are protected. Detective Roberts will contact them. I promise you. Lucy got up to leave. I also got up and hugged her. She clung to me as if I were a life preserver. Thank you, I whispered. You are braver than you think. I am not brave. I am scared all the time. But fear cannot win always. Sometimes you have to do the right thing, even if it costs us everything. She left through the back door. I watched her disappear into the night and prayed she was safe. Months later, I learned Lucy was rehired at another hospital. When she called to tell me, she said, laughing, sometimes telling the truth does have a reward. I went back to room 307 with the envelope pressed against my chest. These proofs changed everything. It was no longer just the attempt with Henry, it was a pattern. It was premeditation. It was enough to ensure Delilah never hurt anyone again. I called Detective Roberts. He answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Reynolds, it is 11 at night. I need to see you tomorrow first thing. I have new evidence. Delilah has done this before and I can prove it." Silence. Then, "I will be at your hospital at 7 sharp. That night, I slept a little better. For the first time in days, I felt I was not completely alone, that there were good people willing to help even if it cost them. People like Lucy, who lost everything to tell the truth, and I was not going to waste her sacrifice. Because justice does not always come from where you expect. Sometimes it comes from the most broken places, from the most hurt people, who understand better than anyone what it means to fight." Detective Roberts arrived on time. I received him in the hospital waiting room with 2 coffees and the manila envelope Lucy had given me. He reviewed every document in silence. His expression darkened with every page. When he finished, he took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "This is pure gold, Mrs. Amanda. With this, we can prove your daughter-in-law has a pattern, that what happened to your husband was not an emotional outburst, but something calculated. Is it enough so they do not get out on bail? It is enough to ask that bail be denied due to flight risk and dangerousness. But I need more." "More? What more do you want?" He leaned forward. "I need to know the full motive. Why now? Why your husband specifically? There has to be a financial reason." He was right. All this was for money. It always had been. "I am going to hire a private investigator, someone to review Matthew and Delilah's finances. I already have one in mind, the best in the city, discreet and fast." 2 days later, the private investigator, a thin man named Sandoval, met me in his office. A small place downtown with walls full of file cabinets and a computer that looked like a museum piece. "Mrs. Reynolds, I found several interesting things." He opened a thick folder. "Let's start with your daughter-in-law." He put in front of me printouts of account statements. Delilah Montes has debts of $30,000. Online gambling houses, mainly, 3 credit cards to the limit, and 2 personal loans she has not paid in 4 months. $30,000. I felt the air leave my lungs. Does Matthew know? That is the interesting part. The movements suggest yes. Look at these transfers. He pointed to a line. "Your son has been sending her money every 2 weeks. Variable amounts, between $2,000 and $5,000. Where does Matthew get that money?" Sandoval took out more papers. His expression was grave. "From the family company, I tracked the accounts. Your son has access to a corporate account that handles operating expenses. In the last 14 months, he has diverted $200,000. The world stopped. 200,000, 210,000 exactly. He did it in small amounts, 1,000 here, 2,000 there. He created fake invoices from suppliers, services that were never provided, low enough not to raise alarms in routine audits. Tears started to fall. I could not stop them. My son. The son we had put in charge of administration, the one who promised to take care of the family legacy. He had been stealing from us for over a year. Did Henry know? Sandoval nodded slowly. Your husband hired his own auditors 2 months ago. They found the irregularities. I have the communications. He took out more papers. Your husband was going to file a formal complaint. The day before the stroke, he had an appointment with his lawyer to sign the documents. Everything fit. Henry discovered the theft. He was going to report Matthew. And the stress of that decision, reporting his own son, caused the stroke. Why didn't he tell me? According to his lawyer's notes, your husband wanted to protect you. He thought he could resolve this legally, recover the money, and only then tell you. Typical Henry. Always trying to carry the difficult problems alone. There is something else, continued Sandoval. I found your husband's modified will, the change he made 2 years ago. Tell me, what does it say? He disinherited Matthew completely. Everything gets divided between you, Eleanor, and Ryan. Matthew receives only a trust of $20,000 for his children, nothing more. $20,000 from a fortune of millions. Matthew knew, I murmured. Somehow he found out. Probably. And there is your motive. If your husband died, they could contest the will, alleging it was made under duress or in an altered mental state. With you devastated by the loss, vulnerable, maybe they would achieve a settlement. But if Henry woke up, he would confirm the will was valid. And furthermore, he would press charges for fraud. Matthew would lose everything and face prison. That is why they needed him not to wake up. That is why Delilah entered every night with her syringes. That is why the constant poison. I left that office with a cold certainty in my chest. There was no longer doubt. There was no longer room for denial. My son had tried to murder his father for money, and I had all the proof. Detective Roberts presented everything to the judge: Lucy's documents, the bank records, the audits, the will. The bail request for Matthew and Delilah was denied. They would remain detained until trial. But there was another battle to fight. Attorney Vance met me in his office. "Amanda, we need to talk about the company. With Matthew out and Henry incapacitated, someone has to take control. Me. You are co-owner. You have every right. But we need to act fast. Suppliers are nervous. Employees scared. If we do not show stability, the business could collapse." That afternoon, I entered the main office for the first time in years. Henry had always handled this. I took care of design, of creativity. But now I gathered the managers, 20 people who had worked with us for decades. Their faces showed concern, fear of losing their jobs. "I know these have been difficult days," I started. "I know rumors have circulated, so I will be direct." I told them everything. The fraud, the diverted money, the fake invoices Matthew had created. We are going to recover every dollar. We are going to audit everything, and we are going to come out of this stronger. One of the managers, Mr. Ramirez, who had been with us for 30 years, raised his hand. "Mrs. Amanda, everyone here is with you. Just tell us what you need." I felt a lump in my throat. "I need you to trust me, like you trusted Henry, like you trusted when we were just two young people with a dream." That night I returned to the hospital exhausted, but with something resembling hope. I had taken control. I had protected the legacy. I sat next to Henry, took his hand. "I am doing it, my love. I am fighting for us, for what we built, and I am not going to let anyone take it from us." His fingers moved, barely, almost imperceptible, but they moved. "Henry," I whispered, leaning in, "can you hear me?" Nothing more, but it was enough. It was a sign that inside there, my husband was still fighting, and I was going to keep fighting too. Because sometimes revenge is not screaming. It is working in silence, gathering every piece and winning the game before the other realizes they have already lost. 6 more days passed. 6 days of cleaning the company finances, 6 days of calls with lawyers, meetings with auditors, documents that never ended, 6 days in which Henry remained motionless in that bed. But I had learned to see the small signs. His eyelids fluttered sometimes when I spoke to him. His fingers contracted when I squeezed his hand. He was there, fighting to return. Dr. Sullivan checked his vital signs every morning. His brain is responding better. The benzodiazepines are leaving his system. It is a matter of time. Always time. The morning of the 15th day, something changed. It was 6:30. I was reading him the newspaper out loud like I did every morning. A silly habit, maybe, but I needed him to hear my voice to know he was not alone. And in local news, the price of tomatoes went up again. "Your favorite salad is going to cost a fortune, my love." His fingers squeezed mine. I dropped the newspaper. My heart raced. Henry. His eyelids fluttered. Slowly, so slowly I thought I was imagining it, they opened. He looked at me. His brown eyes, those eyes I knew better than my own, looked at me with confusion, with effort. But they looked at me. "Henry, my love, you are awake. You are awake." Tears fell uncontrollably. "Wait, do not move. I'm going to call the doctor." I pressed the emergency button. In seconds, the room filled with doctors and nurses. They pushed me aside while they checked his signs, his reflexes, his pressure. Dr. Sullivan smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his tired face. "Mr. Reynolds, can you hear me? Squeeze my hand." Henry squeezed. "Excellent. Can you say your name?" Henry's lips moved. It came out barely a hoarse whisper, scratchy from days without use. "Henry." I cried harder. He had done it. He had woken up. The doctors did more tests, verified he could move both legs, both arms, checked his vision, his immediate memory. Everything worked. He would have to do therapy, regain strength, but his brain was fine. When they finally left us alone, I sat on the edge of the bed and took his hand with both of mine. "I thought I had lost you." Henry looked at me. His eyes filled with tears. Man, duh." Every word cost him effort. "Matt, you." He realized. Even after days unconscious, he knew. "Shh, do not talk yet. Rest." But he shook his head. He squeezed my hand harder. "I have to say." He breathed deeply. "The money, I discovered it. 2 million. I know, my love. I know everything." His eyes opened wider. Surprise. Fear. "How?" "Because they tried to kill you, Henry, and I was not going to stand with my arms crossed. I told him everything. The videos, the poisoned IV, the arrest, the evidence I had gathered. Every word seemed to hit him like a punch. When I finished, tears ran down his cheeks. "My son," he whispered brokenly. "Our son. He is no longer the boy we raised. I do not know what he became, but I could not let him hurt you." Henry closed his eyes. The pain on his face was unbearable. It was not physical pain. It was the pain of a father who just discovered his son wanted to kill him. "I did." "Wrong," he said finally. "I should have told you, not protect you. It does not matter anymore. What matters is that you are alive, and we are going to get out of this." 2 hours later, Detective Roberts entered the room accompanied by a notary public. They needed Henry's official statement. My husband, still weak, still struggling to speak, told everything with a broken voice. He explained how he discovered the irregularities in the accounts 2 months ago, how he hired external auditors without anyone knowing, how he confirmed that Matthew had diverted $2 million. "I was going to report him," he said, "that day. The day of the stroke." "Why that day specifically?" asked the detective. "Because I found this." With trembling hands, he took his cell phone from the side table. He searched his emails and showed one. Matthew asked for access to the main account, the big one, $5 million. The air left the room. $5 million, I repeated. He said that he needed to make an urgent investment, but I already knew. I knew that. He was going to steal it all. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. Not just the $2 million. Matthew wanted everything. He wanted to empty us completely. I told him no, continued Henry. I told him that I knew what he had done, that I was going to report him. What did he say? Henry's face broke down. He called me a selfish old man. He said that I had controlled him his whole life, that it was time. I let go of the power. He breathed tremblingly. And then I felt bad. My chest tightened, and I do not remember more. The stress of the confrontation with his son caused the stroke. And then, while he lay unconscious, vulnerable, that same son tried to ensure he never woke up. The notary certified every word. The detective recorded everything. It was irrefutable evidence. I need you to analyze the IV, added Henry suddenly. I know Delilah studied nursing. I never trusted her. "We already did," I told him softly. "It was full of drugs. They kept you sedated." Henry closed his eyes. A tear rolled to the pillow. My son wanted to kill me. There was no answer for that. There were no words to make that pain smaller. The detective got up to leave. With this statement, the case is closed. They will go to trial. And with all the evidence we have, they will get the maximum sentence. When everyone left, I lay in the bed next to Henry. Something I had never done here. But I needed to feel him close, alive, real. "We lost Matthew," he whispered. "We lost him a long time ago. We just did not realize it. The grandkids, we are going to fight for them. When you are stronger, when all this ends, we are going to bring them back." Henry hugged me with the little strength he had, and there, in that hospital bed, after 2 weeks of nightmare, finally I felt we could breathe. The worst danger had passed. Now came justice. Because waking up is not just opening your eyes. It is facing a truth that you would prefer to keep sleeping to not know. The trial began 3 months later. 3 months in which Henry did physical therapy and recovered almost all his mobility. 3 months in which we rebuilt the company, recovered the stolen money by selling the properties that were in Matthew's name. 3 months in which I did not see my grandkids. The courtroom was full. Journalists, curious people, employees of our company who came to support us. And in the first row, on the other side, Delilah's parents. They looked at me with pure hate. Matthew entered first, handcuffed, dressed in the orange prison uniform. He had lost weight. He had dark circles. When his eyes met mine, I did not see regret. I saw resentment. Delilah entered after, still beautiful, still with that pose of superiority, as if this were a temporary inconvenience, as if she had some hidden card. The trial lasted 2 weeks. The prosecution presented the videos, one by one. The whole room saw them enter the room at night, saw Delilah with her syringes, saw Matthew standing guard. They presented the analysis of the IV, the benzodiazepines, the lethal amounts accumulated. They presented Lucy's testimony. She went up to the stand, trembling, but with a firm voice she told everything. How she saw Delilah change the IV. How they fired her for speaking. They presented the pharmacy records, the fake prescriptions, the pattern of purchases over years. They even showed a previous case where a relative of Delilah had died in similar circumstances. The pattern was impossible to deny, and they presented the complete audit, every stolen dollar, every fake invoice, the $2 million diverted. Delilah's lawyer tried to create doubt. He said she only wanted to help, that the medications were to calm Henry's anxiety, that everything was a misunderstanding. But when the prosecutor asked why she did it at dawn then, without medical authorization, using stolen keys, she had no answer. Matthew's lawyer tried to paint him as a victim, a son manipulated by an ambitious wife, a man with gambling problems who made mistakes but never wanted to hurt anyone. Then the prosecutor showed the text messages. Messages between Matthew and Delilah from the weeks prior to Henry's stroke. "I cannot stand my father anymore. He controls everything. When he is gone, everything will be ours. And if he does not go soon, there are ways to speed things up." The room went silent. Then came the messages after the stroke. How much longer? A few more nights needs to look natural. And if your mom suspects, we will make her look crazy. No one will believe her. I saw Matthew sink into his chair. I saw Delilah finally lose that mask of control. When it was my turn to testify, I went up to the stand with my legs trembling. The defense attorney attacked me immediately. "Mrs. Reynolds, is it not true that you always had problems with your daughter-in-law?" I tried to accept her. She never allowed me to. "Is it not true that you are controlling with your family?" Caring is not controlling. "Is it not true that you invented all this because you could not accept that your son had formed his own family?" I stood up from the chair. The judge asked me to sit, but I needed to say it. My son tried to kill my husband. I have videos. I have proof. I have their own words. And if you think a mother invents something like that out of jealousy, then you understand nothing of a mother's love." The judge banged the gavel, but I saw approval in his eyes. Henry testified at the end. He walked to the stand still with a cane, still weak but with dignity intact. He told everything: the discovery of the theft, the confrontation with Matthew, the stroke, waking up knowing his son had wanted him not to. "Do you have anything to say to your son?" asked the prosecutor. Henry looked Matthew straight in the eyes. For the first time in the trial, Matthew could not hold the gaze. "I gave you everything. I taught you everything, and in exchange you tried to take my life, not out of necessity, out of ambition." His voice broke. "I do not recognize you. The son I raised died a long time ago, and I had to accept it." Matthew lowered his head. The jury deliberated 4 hours. When they returned, the room was in absolute silence. In the case of the state versus Delilah Montes Reynolds, we find her guilty of attempted murder in the first degree, forgery of documents, and illegal practice of medicine. Delilah screamed. Her parents cried. Officers had to hold her while she cursed the jury, the judge, everyone. In the case of the state versus Matthew Reynolds, we find him guilty of complicity in attempted murder, corporate fraud, and money laundering. Matthew said nothing. He just closed his eyes. The sentence arrived a week later. Delilah, 12 years in prison without possibility of parole. Matthew, 8 years in prison, plus full restitution of the $2 million. The court ordered the immediate return of the money to the company. Every dollar was recovered in less than 6 months. We left the courthouse holding hands, Henry and I, like when we were young and the whole world was against us, but we had each other. Attorney Vance accompanied us to the exit. He had carried the case from beginning to end, like a soldier of the law who does not accept half-truths. The journalists surrounded us. Flashes, shouted questions, microphones in the face. "How do you feel, Mrs. Reynolds?" I did not feel victorious. I felt empty. I had won the case but lost my son. I feel grateful that there is justice and sad for what could have been and will never be. 3 weeks later, we won custody of Mason and Sophie. Delilah's parents fought. They said we were too old, that children needed youth, but the judge saw the bank accounts, saw that the Montes lived off loans, saw that we had been the main caregivers of those children since birth. Custody granted to paternal grandparents. The afternoon we brought them home, Mason asked, "Nana, when are Dad and Mom coming back?" Henry knelt in front of him. He took his hands. "They are going to be away a long time, champion. They did bad things. But we are going to take care of you, and never, never are we going to abandon you." Sophie hugged my leg. "Can we stay forever?" "Forever, my love." Eleanor and Ryan took months to call me again. Time and public evidence showed them the truth, but family wounds do not heal with sentences. That night, when the children were sleeping, Henry and I sat on the terrace, the same one where we celebrated birthdays, where we planned the future. "We lost a son," he said, "but we saved 2 grandkids, and we saved ourselves." He took my hand. 43 years together, and you still surprise me. Why? Because when everything fell apart, you did not give up. You fought like you have always done. 3 years later, on our 46th anniversary, we received a letter from prison. It was from Matthew. "Mom, Dad, I know I do not deserve forgiveness, but I need you to know I am sorry. Every day I regret it. Every day I wish I could turn back time. Mason and Sophie, are they okay? Can I see them?" Henry read it in silence. He looked at me. "What do you say?" I thought about everything, in the pain, in the betrayal, but also in those 2 children who asked about their father, once a month, with supervision, for them, not for him. And that is what we did. Because forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It means choosing not to let the poison of the past poison the future. I learned that true family is not just blood. It is loyalty. It is being there when everything falls apart. It is Lucy risking her job, It is Attorney Vance fighting tirelessly. It is Henry waking up and choosing to live. And I learned that sometimes saving a life means breaking a family to be able to rebuild it honestly. If this story touched something in your heart, let me know in the comments where you are watching us from. Like if you think I did the right thing. And subscribe, because here we will continue sharing stories of women who refuse to stay silent. Because true strength is not in never falling. It is in getting up every time, even if everything and everyone tells you to stay on the ground. I learned that some wounds do not close. They just stop bleeding with time. But while there is love and truth, there is always life after pain.